And if there's like scenarios where it's like a bit touch and go, how do you handle it?
Things that the wedding planners, so I've heard, discuss on their WhatsApp groups are not whether us photographers deliver good work. It's like who was being gossipy on the day, who was being difficult to work with.
People tend to also get lost in the one wedding mindset.
Because nobody wants to be left behind, and you see what everyone else is doing and you're like, I gotta live up to that, otherwise I'm gonna fall to the wayside.
Okay, Shanae, welcome to the podcast. Really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. It's so nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, you too, eh? No. We've been working together for quite a while, and yeah, you're one of the best photographers in South Africa, and I believe you're going to be one of the best photographers in the world someday as well.
Oh, you're just saying that.
And yeah, you're an inspiration to a lot of photographers and to myself out there. You're doing great work. And yeah, thank you so much for coming over and being willing to have this conversation.
I'm very humbled to be here.
But Shanae, quickly tell me, how did you get started in photography? Why did you decide to go down this path, and why don't you do something else, you know?
I've been fascinated by photography since I was young, and but growing up, the wedding industry wasn't nearly as big as it is now, so I never knew that I would be able to do it as a career. It was only during university when I was just shooting formals and matric farewells where my sister said to me, you should try out weddings, you make a lot of money. And then the rest is history. But I stayed in weddings because I'm the biggest hopeless romantic you will ever meet. And I just love love.
Awesome. And how would you describe your style of photography now, and what do you try to get out of a wedding?
So when I'm shooting weddings, I'm really trying to gauge who my couple is if I haven't met them beforehand, and not in a way that's like one size fits all, but more in just being really intentional, seeing who they are, what makes them, like, what are their love languages, what matters most to them about the wedding day, and really being intentional about how I shoot.
Awesome. And tell me, what's your dream wedding that you would want to photograph one day?
I would love to photograph a wedding on Milos Island in Greece. I was there last year on vacation and I just fell in love with the place. So that's my dream.
So, Shanae, I invited you here today to chat a bit about collaboration over competition. And we've worked countless weddings together, and I really feel we have a good relationship when it comes to being honest to one another. I mean, we had some interesting chats in the past, and we've really helped one another to evolve into great creatives within the wedding industry.
We have.
And yeah, I want to just start off by asking you, how do you feel working with other videographers out there? What are some benefits with working well with videographers? What would you say?
I think when clients ask me whether or not they should book video, I will always encourage them to book video because I really do feel like photo and video are so complementary and the one can encapsulate something that the other one can't. So people will obviously always prioritize photo, but if you can do video, it's an absolute like bonus. And working well with a videographer means that you are serving your client better at the end of the day. They are getting better footage, you are getting better images, and everyone's happy. And so I never have a problem with someone booking a videographer for the day. I've been really lucky to work with really nice people. The negative experiences are in the minority.
And tell me, like, how do you approach it on the wedding day? Do you like have a call beforehand with the videographer? Do you just rock up on the wedding day and just make it work? And if there's like scenarios where it's like a bit touch and go, how do you handle it? Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's necessary to do a call beforehand. I think then you're insinuating that it's supposed to be a hiccup, right? So I just rock up on the wedding day and I make a point of introducing myself and just having a chat. Like, doesn't even have to be industry related. Getting to know them beforehand, getting a feel of their personality and how they shoot, and keeping that in mind throughout the day, and also being really upfront about my weaknesses and my own shortcomings. I always get flack from my friend Cherise. I'm always walking in front of her husband Bornay when he's shooting video, and it's become a running joke. So I do have the tendency to do that. I don't do it on purpose. So I will just let them know, like, be very, like, be on the lookout for me, because I tend to do that, and it's not on purpose.
I mean, I've worked with countless photographers and they all do it. And it's not, I don't take offense towards it. I know that you're not necessarily in the moment thinking about what the video guy is doing. And I try to always say, keep it lighthearted, because when it's lighthearted, everyone gets along. Whereas you're too strict, it might not be very nice towards the photographer. And I think couples, they can see it. They aren't blind towards it. And if they have to like deflate the situation the whole day long, I mean, that's not what they're there to do. They're there to, fall in love and really experience that wedding emotion.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, no, but I mean, you must have a story of some sorts of working with someone that you didn't really necessarily like, but how did the conversation go to kind of gauge them, to tell them, listen, we have to work together? Did you have a conversation like that ever before, or?
I've never had a conversation like that. I did have one experience stands out, and unfortunately, or yeah, these people don't have a really good reputation under photographers. So I'm glad that I wasn't the only one who had this experience. It was like, okay, other people see this too. Um, it was still pretty early on in my career, so I didn't have the confidence to be like, puff up my chest and say what I wanted to say. So I kind of just worked around them. I could see that they were influencing the experience of the bride by being really cheesy and overpowering. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just not going to be that. So they'll remember me being really easy to work with, and they'll remember the videographer being really difficult. So counts in my favor.
Yes, man. I think it's difficult to kind of work together with someone if they're very not open towards it, or they're very opposite on what you do at the wedding. For example, if other videographers that I've worked with in the past are very much more directorial on the day, and they're coming in and posing the couple, telling them exactly what to do.
Yes.
And it's difficult to work with people like that. But I think having clear communication and saying, like, listen, unfortunately, I'm a bit more documentary and I want a bit more natural movement. Can we kind of meet in the middle, where we rather, give them a good breakdown of what they should do, and then they can kind of do it exactly like they would do it, and not necessarily getting overly involved with the, okay, you have to stand exactly like this and there's no movement whatsoever, or people feel a bit, okay, cool, I'm getting nothing here. And it's difficult, but I think having those conversations early on in the wedding day is better than having them at the couple shoot, for example, where you have limited time and
everything is built up to here.
Yeah, and it blows up and it's giving you a bad reputation. It's giving the videographer a bad reputation. And I mean, the couple is going to feel terrible. They're definitely not going to be in a mood to be lovey-dovey and really give you nice content.
Exactly. That's actually such a good point. When you're a photographer shooting from a documentary kind of style and you have a videographer who shoots very, very staged, and I think educating your couples on that beforehand is really important. So when they let you know like who they are looking at, or if they ask for suggestions, rather suggest videographers that have a similar approach or style to you. And I remember this one guy I worked with, the bride was so happy on her wedding day and she was so joyful. She couldn't stop smiling. She was just one of those people who's like, he's like, her face was just lit up the whole time. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing. And I just captured her the way that she was. And he kept telling her to stop smiling because he wanted like a very moody vibe. And I was like, my guy, this is not your wedding, it's her wedding. And he kept like diminishing that. And I thought that's like the worst thing you can do for your client, is literally telling them to not be themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it always comes down to what the couple would want. I think it's difficult to kind of tell them, okay, cool, listen, maybe person A and person B isn't the best options, but if they opt to go for them, they should just be aware of the differences between approach. But I firmly believe in that there's always a workaround.
Absolutely.
And I think if both parties come to come to a agreement on let's work together and let's compromise. Let's see if we can make this relationship work just for the day. I mean, it's 12 hours. It's not your entire life that you have to change completely. And I think people tend to also get lost in the one wedding mindset. If I can do this wedding like next level, I'm gonna make so much bookings off of it. But you've got a lot of other weddings coming up, so rather just bite the bullet and work around it. Make sure that you're really delivering what you promised the client, and you kind of just working around the vendor that you're currently not necessarily the happiest with. And then at the end of the day, you're going to be in a far better off position where you kind of had to struggle the whole day to kind of get your way. And at the end, you'll probably hate yourself for it. And the other vendors might see it as well. And you don't want to be in a spot where you kind of the person in the industry that no one wants to refer or talk to.
And that's the thing that people remember about you. You can be really talented and deliver exceptional work, but at what cost? Did you make the wedding planner, the couple, the other vendors feel terrible the entire day just because you wanted to like, Yeah, exactly. So, that's the things that the wedding planners, so I've heard, discuss on their WhatsApp groups are not whether us photographers deliver good work. It's like who was being gossipy on the day, who was being difficult to work with. So that's so much more important.
Yeah, I think keeping it professional, that's the most important thing, especially if you charging a substantial amount of money and you have to kind of deliver on it as well. And I think on top of everything, you should be professional regardless of how the wedding day goes. If the couple is very cross and angry with like vendors or whatever, you just need to put your smile on your face and keep everything going. Shanae, now talking a bit on referrals, how do you go about referring other vendors? Do you have like a criteria of people that you want to work with? Do you refer people that you haven't worked with? How would you go about it?
That's a good question. Obviously, my first referrals are always people I've worked with who I feel like our synergy is really good and the couple will benefit from them. And I often refer people who I haven't worked with, but whose work I really admire. And I'm like, I'd actually learn a lot from this person. So it would be a bonus if the couple booked them. Yeah, so if a bride asks me for any kind of referral, like makeup artist, or I'll try to refer someone who is gonna deliver on what her vision is. Because everyone's got kind of like a different style and approach, no matter like how many of us there are, we still have our like unique little selling point.
And tell me, let's say a client comes to you and they suggest or they want something that you don't necessarily deliver on. Would you recommend another photographer or would you take on the work regardless of knowing those parameters that they give you?
That's also a good question. I think a good example is a bride asked me recently if I could offer film, like 35 millimeter film, as an add-on, and I said yes, but I'm going to be really transparent with you. I only just bought my first film camera ever, and I'm now going to start practicing with it, and I'm going to shoot at weddings just for fun to see how it goes. So I'm not going to charge you a premium rate, and I'm very confident that in the next year and a half, which is, her wedding's only in 18 months, I'll be pretty like well versed in it. But right now, I can't show you anything for it. So, but she knows that. So I'm not lying to her. I'm not omitting any information. I'm laying all my cards on the table. I think it also depends on what they want. If they're trying to get a style out of you that you don't do at all, that just doesn't align with you or your brand, then I would suggest somebody else. But generally, I think people already resonate with my work to some extent. So it's not very often that they ask for something that's completely out of uh, my wheelhouse. Yeah.
So tell me, when it comes to being booked up already, who do you tend to kind of refer? Is it someone that's in the same type of style as yourself, or do you send options for them to kind of gauge, like, for example, more documentary, more editorial, and more light and airy? Do you give them a variety of options, or do you just recommend people that you would feel resonates with what you're currently busy with?
I think a combination of the two. If I feel like all my second shooters are normally my first people that I refer because all of them are like on par with my experience level and then with my style as well. And then I'll also check our little creatives WhatsApp group and ask people who is available on this date. And out of those, I will see maybe like who of these people will really resonate with this couple because maybe you get like 20 people saying I'm available, but I don't want to send my client or this person 20 referrals. So you kind of be a little bit more selective from that.
To kind of see what the couple would want. But touching now on the creative side, when you're working with a lot of creatives out there and referring people, I've burnt my fingers in the past referring someone that didn't necessarily deliver upon what they promised to. And the problem with that is I think it's the quickest way to get yourself out of a referral phase, out of a lot of videographers or photographers out there, is not being 100% transparent on what you deliver and not doing it within the boundaries that you set for your client. And also working well on the day. I mean, I've worked with a lot of videographers out there, and it's sad to see sometimes when I shoot for them that they aren't necessarily doing the most for the client that you would want them to do. And you don't want to refer someone because you're not available for that date, and they shoot the wedding, the referral, and you see that bride or groom at another wedding where they're a bridesmaid or groomsman or guest, and you hear, yo, listen, this wasn't necessarily the best option out there. Because it's sad to say, but the reality is if you're not going to give your 100%, chances are I'm not going to refer you at all.
That's very true.
Because it's difficult in the sense of, I don't know, a lot of videographers out there, they're quite scarce. The great ones are quite scarce. And it's a gamble. It's a gamble to refer someone point blank without knowing how they work. And I mean, that's when you come in.
Fair.
That's when you come into asking other photographers, like, how was it? How did that person do? Are they well versed? Are they good to work
And
with?
I mean, their portfolio could look really amazing and what you see on Instagram, but then you have no idea how they handle conflict or whether they are resourceful on a day where the weather's really bad or, yeah, so I hear you.
So last question on referrals, but last question, how do you build up referrals? How do you get to a place where you're constantly getting referrals from photographers, videographers, planners, venues? How do you get to that stage? What do you have to do to kind of get it at that level?
I would say start out by like if you are following a a wedding planner whose work you really love or who plans weddings that you would love to shoot. I wouldn't just go like straight to their DMs and be like, "Hi, can I please be on your preferred suppliers list?" Because that just comes across so like you want something from them. So I would try to like foster a bit of an Instagram relationship, where you get to that point where you feel like you know the person, but you haven't even really met them in real life. So engage with their posts. Start by liking a few stories and then commenting and then DMing them and just saying, oh, this is really beautiful. I love it. Even if they post something about their personal lives, just engage with that content and not in a way of being like, ooh, I'm being sneaky now, like I'm working with a plan. it's also a nice way to see whether you actually get along with this person, the way that they respond to a compliment that you give them. You might be like, oh, I actually don't want to work with this person because they're actually really rude or whatever. Um, and then I think over time, you might run into them at a wedding and they'd be like, oh, you are that person. And then that reinforces the relationship you've built up to that point. And maybe you could suggest in person. It's always easier to pitch things in person as well because the person can see the intent behind it and the tone of voice and all of that. You can be like, oh, if you ever need headshots, I would love to just come and do headshots of you for your website, or I'd love to come and photograph you while setting up at a wedding. It doesn't have to even have to be me, like if I'm the sorry, it doesn't even have to be me as the official photographer. I'll just come in, shoot you setting up and I'll leave again and you can use those photos and I won't expect anything in return. So, yeah, and just letting it happen organically. I mean, you can even email a few people and offer them something without expecting anything in return. And obviously, if you work with a planner and you really, hope that they refer you again, just make sure that you are on time and you are dressed well and you have good manners and you have good etiquette on the day and you really, really try to like come with solutions instead of problems. And I promise you, they will refer you.
Yeah, and I think another way that you can always count on getting good referrals is second shooting. I think that's a wonderful way to kind of also get educated in the industry and also kind of putting yourself out there and showcasing what you're able to do. And I think building up one good relationship with one photographer might lead to multiple referrals because they would talk up you. They would talk you up at other photographers. And when they ask on a group, for example, for someone out there that's willing to work for a wedding or whatever, you'll be more than happy to refer them.
Yes.
And I think also just being consistent with your posting online, I think there's a lot of opportunity on there, but just showing up regularly and just showcasing what you're able to do and being transparent on what your deliverables are very important. So, Shanae, the big question now. Are you someone that stands for community over competition within the creative space? How do you go about it? How do you think about it? What would you say?
A very good question once again. Um, I believe that there is space for everybody. And I've seen that time and time again. And I have a friend who once told me that if you live like this is your metaphorical, like the hand from which you receive and give. If you live like this, then your hand is never open to receive. But if you live like this and you're always giving, then your hand is open to receive. So I feel that that applies to the industry. If you are going to gatekeep locations and resources just because you don't want other people, like you are so, that just signals insecurity to me. So if you're so insecure that you don't want other people to do the same thing as you, then you're probably actually not that confident in your work. Whereas the photographers who are so open about what they do and how they do it are normally, their success is never affected. So in that sense, yes, absolutely. Community over competition. I think we all have something unique to bring to the table. There is space for everyone. However, I also do feel that the photography community, even though there are a lot of us, it is still quite small. So gossip travels and news travels. And so I think you should just always be really mindful about what you say to who, how much you share, how much you talk about clients. I mean, I see people talk about clients on WhatsApp groups, and I don't think it's professional. I think there needs to be clear boundaries still. It can become like klein dorpie syndrome, where everybody knows everybody's business. And so, yeah, just be selective about who you confide in. And you can, we have these female photographer meetups, and it's amazing because we can all relate and we can all share things, not as fellow photographers, but like the women are always the married and the women who have kids are always sharing about how they went about shooting a wedding the first time after they had a baby, which I can't relate to yet. But I think that that's really amazing to have because that's so niche. But so that's really that's really beautiful to see. But at the same time, it's still, you know, like keep, yeah, just keep your sacred information close to your heart, I must say.
Yeah, I think being able to work in this industry is very nice, and it's strange because I feel creatives are quite a select few in the world out there, especially in a very industrial corporate world. There aren't a lot of creatives, and I got this reel once where they talked about the fashion industry, and they said fashion really pushed one another to become better with what they do. And I think with having that inner creative space is very important, because the more we all work together to get it to a certain standard, the better it's going to be for everyone.
Because nobody wants to be left behind, and you see what everyone else is doing, and you're like, I gotta live up to that, otherwise I'm gonna fall to the wayside.
Yes, and I think also having so much competition in the industry shows that this industry is very healthy. And it means that there's a lot of weddings happening, so there needs to be more photographers, more videographers. But the reality is, everyone is going to have to start somewhere, and everyone has got to get better at everything that they do. They can't be stagnant and just, you know, just keep doing what they're doing. They got to innovate with the times, adapt the trends in their style, and make sure that they're really catering to what the client is wanting today. And yeah, I see a lot of photographers doing the community thing quite well, and I've seen some videographers now really leaning into it, which is awesome to see. But the reality is, I think we're outnumbered to the photographers like 1 to 10. So we aren't a lot yet, but I think as video is becoming much more accessible for young creatives coming into the industry, I think more people opt to do video instead of photo. And I mean, vice versa.
Instead of completely.
No, not completely, but I think where they keep video their main form of content out there, opposed to photos. So, but I think there's room for both, like you said earlier. I firmly believe in that, and I don't think it's going to go away. Photo and video, I think it's going to keep evolving and becoming more integral at weddings, especially as we entering this digital age, and where people are really spending more and more money on it because it's much more important for them. So yeah, but Shanae, you also have a retreat that you've done 2 times now, and it's been very successful. I was at the first retreat and I was absolutely blown away by the amount of effort you put into it. And from the feedback we shot that day, I mean, the clients were very happy, and everyone there really had a good time, and they really felt that they learned a lot. And I think the biggest takeaway was that they got community out of it. And what's your plan going forward with that? What's your vision for it? What do you see it becoming?
Well, thank you for referring to my retreat. Yeah, last year was also absolutely amazing. I think I was really ambitious the second time around. I would just focus on making it bigger and better and more elevated. And I think there was a lot that I focused on that I could have left out entirely. And there's a lot that I think going into the third one this year, I also want to just bring it back to basics. The first one was still, I would say, the most successful all round, in terms of just the return on investment I feel that I also got from it, and the level of stress that it caused me. So with this year, I really want to just simplify it a bit again, focus on what people walk away with every single time saying this was the best part, and that is always the community, the food, and the style shoots. So really just making that the core focus, and I will most likely have people apply for it and do interviews beforehand, and just so that we can have a group that gets along really well, and make sure that everybody who's there is going to benefit from the retreat. Some people, I think, I've had people say, "Oh, I want to attend your retreat," and then they are like a total beginner, and I'm like, I can't charge you money to attend this retreat, because it's just, you need to cover a few basics before you get to that point. So yeah, just kind of filtering out, the people who will
Making
not
sure that you're not at the beginning stage, but at an intermediate stage where you kind of have found your style and your way of working with other creatives and with couples and planners out there. I understand completely where you're coming from.
Yes. And at the end of the day, it's still a retreat, and that says relaxation, recharge, just filling your creative cup again. And whether people do that for you, whether, experimenting with your work does that for you, whether just being in a really beautiful setting does that for you, I think that's exactly the core of Lumina. So I'm really excited for.
Shanae, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. You gave some great insight, and it was lovely discussing the various ways how you can collaborate with videographers and photographers out there, and also talking about the industry in general. I think you gave some great keynotes there, and I think people are going to find great value off of it. And in the next podcast, we'll be talking about AI and the effects of it within the space of the creative space, and talking about how it might take our jobs one day. But I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to hear what some of the things are that you're currently using AI with, and whether or not you think it's going to take our jobs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.